And phase one of the tentative ceasefire between Israel and Hamas is set to end this weekend. Egypt says officials from Israel, Qatar, and U.S. have started intensive discussions on phase two. It's set to include the return of all remaining living hostages held in Gaza and the withdrawal of Israeli troops. ABC News foreign correspondent Tom Soufi Burridge has more on that. Tom, good morning. So how are Israel and Hamas, how close are they to agreeing to this extension of the ceasefire in Gaza?
Well, look, Israel and Hamas both want the ceasefire to be prolonged beyond tomorrow. So what's supposed to happen tomorrow is that phase one of the ceasefire agreement, an initial 6-week ceasefire, it was supposed to be the release of 33 hostages living and dead. It ended up being 38 hostages living and dead, including 2 living Americans over the last 6 weeks. That first phase is supposed to end. What Israel wants to happen now, instead of ending that first phase, it effectively wants to prolong phase one and negotiate the further release of hostages in return for more Palestinian prisoners being held in Israeli jails. What Hamas wants to do is stick to the original agreement and for phase one to end tomorrow and for phase two to begin. And why this is important is because phase two is supposed to lead to a definitive end to the war, the release of all remaining living hostages, and the withdrawal, the full withdrawal of IDF forces from the entire Gaza Strip. And the Israeli government is doubling down on its aim that it still wants to keep the possibility that it would restart the war and go back after Hamas in the Gaza Strip. And therefore, it wants to prolong phase one and still try and get more hostages out, but not commit to a definitive end to the war.
And Tom, Israeli officials say they won't withdraw from the Philadelphia corridor despite that being part of the ceasefire agreement. Why are they going back on that now, and how could it impact these phase two negotiations?
Well, this has always, Diane, been one of the very, very tricky issues in the negotiations, and it's been one of the red lines that the Israelis put down early on in negotiations months ago. I mean, it comes back down to that point about whether or not the Israeli military is going to fully withdraw from the entire Gaza Strip. The Philadelphia corridor is that important strip of land separating Egypt and the southern part of the Gaza Strip. Israel says it needs to maintain some control over that to prevent weapons potentially being smuggled back into Israel in the future. But it is a very, very thorny issue. And you know, it points to the complexity of the negotiation now. In a way, both sides seem to have a common interest in not restarting the war immediately, but they both have different interests in how that should be done, how the negotiations should proceed. I think what's not clear at this stage in time is if the negotiation isn't concluded by tomorrow, will there be some kind of announcement to prolong the ceasefire or not? Will there be any type of agreement in the interim while negotiations continue?
All right, Tom Soufi Burridge, thank you.